Good afternoon, everybody. Oh my goodness, I think everybody left the room. Shall we try that again? Good afternoon. How are you? I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me. Terrific fun. I'm having an awesome time here at FII, and I hope that it has not only been stimulating and exciting for all of you, but of course, very, very fruitful at the same time. After all, we are talking about business. So, the reason we're all gathered here is to talk about hospitality and the question of human capital and new markets, upbuilding human capital so that human capital too is future ready. I could easily have that conversation by myself because we all travel quite a bit and we experience hospitality quite a bit and we have our thoughts about hospitality, but I'm going to leave that to the experts to do. So I'm going to ask you in the room to please give a very warm welcome to the following gentlemen. And I'm the only lady, but hopefully next time there'll be another lady. So gentlemen, if I could ask you to please join me. Sebastien Bazin is the chairman and CEO of Accor. Sebastien, bienvenue. Omar Al-Hamamsy is the group CEO of Orascom Development Holding. Omar.
Yeah.
And Manfredi Lefebvre d'Ovidio, the executive chairman of Heritage Group and probably a legend in his own right, yes, Manfredi. Yes. You can tell this is going to be fun already. All right, gentlemen, please take a seat. Okay, so we all know that when we talk about hospitality, it's about people, regardless of which touch point, whether you're talking about at the front, in the middle, or the back end, it's all about people. I want to ask each of you, in your respective businesses, how, if at all, are you thinking differently about human capital moving forwards, particularly in the context of new markets which you may want to explore? Sebastien, if I can start with you.
Sure. First, good afternoon. It's an interesting challenge, because it is a challenge. At Accor, we have 340,000 employees under the brands of Accor. The biggest challenge we have is we lose a third of those people every single year. They go to a different brand or they go to a different industry, which means that we have to hire every year 140,000 people. Because of course part of this is the hotel we're going to be opening during the last 12 months. And we realize that we're doing it in 120 different countries with different culture, different language, different religions. 2/3 of the people we hire every single year never finished high school, let alone went to university. And that 2/3, of course, never had a job before. So we train 70,000 people a skill. We train them how to interact, how to behave, how to progress. And he works all the time. He works in Nigeria, he works in Sri Lanka, he works in Vietnam. And it's kind of a miracle about the industry. Our industry is generous, warm, welcoming. If you do pay attention for those underprivileged people because they didn't have a chance to go to university, it's not their will, it's just that they could not go. You realize that, again, they are the best asset. So regardless of what we're going to talk about AI and technology, the beauty of hospitality, this is the only industry, I think, on the planet when we can welcome so many diverse population and keep them, hopefully, for 20 years. And it's, I'll tell you something later about the low-income, middle-income.
You're going to tell me something later, in fact, a little bit about the churn question, because you're saying that you want to keep them for 20 years, but I think all of us sitting here know that keeping hospitality people in the business for 20 years is a lot easier said than done, but we're going to come back to that a little bit later. If I can come back to you, Omar, same question. How are you thinking differently about it?
Well, actually, it's really interesting to hear the numbers that Sebastien is talking about, because the scale and the diversity is huge. We have a slightly different approach, and it's based a little bit on the nature of the business of Orascom development, which is ultimately developing land into centers of life and very integrated communities across 3 different continents, Europe, North Africa, and the GCC. And the way that the company started 35 years ago from one founder and grew for many, many years as a family-owned business, and still today, I think, very much has that look and feel and very special family environment. And so when we look at our churn levels, and when we think about where we get people and how we recruit them, etc., it's incredibly integrated in the communities, in the towns that we build pretty much from scratch. And the level of loyalty, I would say, right, that people have and passion that they have for the company, for the management team, for the owner, family, etc., is such that it actually increases our resilience from a churn perspective. And it's easier, of course, for us to do because we're operating on a dramatically smaller scale. We're only talking about 10,000 employees in total. But still, I think it's something that's really interesting in those more emerging markets that we're in.
Manfredi, for you, the same question. You thinking differently, in a different space. You're predominantly not on land, predominantly on the waters. But the human capital question remains. How are you thinking differently about it?
I'm very lucky compared to Sebastien. Okay, I'm not lucky because my business is much smaller. But I have two businesses. One is Abercrombie & Kent, which is made of 60 offices around the world, and it has mainly riverboats or camps in Africa, etc. If you have a camp in Africa, the community will be very tied to that camp. We are the choice for them. We train them, we sustain the community, we help the community with other things in their life, so that creates a great bonding. And in general, the people in our peripheral offices are of great loyalty to the brand, so very stable. The other experience, which was very interesting to me, is at a certain point, I sold my cruise line, which was Silver Sea, and I bought another cruise line called Crystal. I bought it out of bankruptcy, which means that everybody had been fired. So I sold my cruise line, and I bought another one, everybody fired. Okay, when I bought the cruise line, 250 people from the offices or from the ships of Silver Sea wrote in the first week to come and work with us. And, incredibly, 85% of the crew of the ships came back. After 1 year, they came back. So they were affectionate to the brand. Why? We treat them very well. They were very proud of the product, and so on. It's also a privilege of the cruise businesses that we bring people from remote destination to work all over the world, and the kind of compensation that they get is very high compared to the life standard of their families. But even there, they prefer to come to work for us than other cruise lines because of the culture of the company. So treating the human capital is very important, not only on the assets, but also on the business. Because if you change people all the time, you lose the culture of the business.
Well, exactly. So we come back again to the churn question. Two things on churn. When you are looking at a rate that is fairly high, but you're upskilling in the process, the people who are going back into the system are better skilled, right? So you kind of reap the benefits of that investment on a broader skill. But you still have to upskill the new team that comes in. How are you thinking differently about the retention question, if you are at all? And secondly, to Manfredi's narrative, when you are working in environments such as where you're finding there is higher rates of poverty, there is perhaps a lower economic performance, you find that for one individual, you have multiple people who depend on that person. So the job question becomes important, but keeping a job when another one that is similar pays better is also more tempting. So you've got this push and pull factor. Sebastien, if I can come to you to address how you're thinking about that, and then Manfredi, maybe you can add on to that. Sebastien?
Well, first of all, are we sad that they leave after 3 or 4 years? The answer is no. And the reason why we're not sad is any job in the world, don't ever kidnap that person. People are free to go. And we realized, I guess, half of those people we hired feel stronger, better, greater self-esteem, more courageous, and they go because they probably did not like the hospitality industry, but they're very thankful that somebody actually showed them a hand and welcomed them. And the mere fact that we do it again and again every single year, that means I can provide a greater chance to a greater number of people. So we have absolutely no regret. The only thing we're trying to do to slow down the 33% is something which we call reveal talent. Because if you come with no diploma, there's kind of a glass ceiling after year 5 or 6 where we don't offer you the job you might deserve. So what we do is we then ask and offer to those people to go to university at that time for a couple of years, for 3 years, which is under sponsorship from Accor. So the way to minimize is get them that chance to go higher up in the hierarchy with a diploma they never had before. For the rest, you know, it's the one thing which is paradoxical about the industry, and it's very much two sides of the same coin. Why do we exist? Why is it blessed? Our industry is great because it is all dependent on higher demography and higher emerging middle class. When I was born, the world had 3 billion people. In only 62 years, we are at 7.5 and we're going to probably 10 billion. That's the good news. We live and die on travel, trade, hospitality with a greater number of people and needs. The counter side of this, in low middle income countries, Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, South America, we know today you're going to have 1.2 billion new people between 14 and 24 years old looking for a job within 10 years only. 1.2 billion. And we know as of today, we can provide them with maybe 400 million jobs. So 800 million will be on the sideline. Many of them won't go to university. We need to respond to it. So as a curator of the industry, you have the two paradoxal, I'm blessed, but I need to respond for those who are actually underblessed.
Yeah. Manfredi, if I can ask you for a brief response to the question, and then I want to come to Omar. If I can ask you just to respond a little bit about how you're thinking differently when it comes to retention and the push and pull of, one, keeping your team, not wanting to hold them hostage, but at the same time understanding that there will be a desire to move on depending on what their specific pull issues are.
I think that in our industry, we are one of the areas of the business which allows most osmosis between lower jobs and higher jobs. Yeah. At least in the cruise industry, and also in our businesses around the various continents, the amount of people that start in a low position and arrive in a high position is very high. So you have a number of persons who have entered on a cruise ship as a waiter, becomes a maitre d', becomes a head of hotel operations. It can make, it's one of the incredible things of our industry. And that is one important thing which motivates people. I can have a career. Another thing which motivates people is that it creates, especially in certain industries, my basic experience is a cruise industry. You have a very, very high loyalty of passengers, of guests with the brand. When I acquired Crystal, and the first cruise that I did, people were coming to me crying and saying, thank you for having helped and saved Crystal. Very much affection. And affection is not only on the asset, I like the ship, it's on the crew. So you have passengers who are affectionate to a brand also, and very much because of the crew that they will find. And the crew, they like to be part of the value of the brand, and so then the people, the guests come, oh, finally you know me, this and that. So it's a mutual thing. So you have the career path, you have the satisfaction of serving the people, and if you go on the other human factor, which is our guests, I mean, the loyalty, I think we all agree, is very important. If we can have people recurrently coming to our assets, and it's much better. And this is done very much also by the kind of service they will be and how they're recognized.
Yeah, yeah. Omar, I don't want you to feel like I'm neglecting you. It's not because you used to be a consultant. I'm not neglecting you. Let's just chat for a moment then about looking forward and this balance between profitability. They're all businesses, so you've got to make money. But also this increasing ESG imperative, particularly on the question of sustainability. And how that has also a very direct impact on trying to find the mix that works for you, even with a unique model like yours.
Well, I mean, from our point of view, we were always designed by nature, if you will, to be incredibly integrated in the nature and the environment in which we are, be it the physical, environmental, kind of the nature, on the Red Sea, on the Indian Ocean, in the Swiss Alps or on the Adriatic, that's one. but also in the social fabric of the places which typically tend to be a few hundred kilometers away from large cities or capital cities in many of these places, where we actually have to make sure that we're fully integrated with the local social fabric and employ people in those places. So for us, this whole concept of ESG is frankly a backward-looking, if you will, nomenclature on something that we've been doing for 35 years. And if I look, for example, at the economic impact that we have in some of those towns that we've developed our towns in, so in Egypt on the Red Sea near Hurghada, we've had economic impact that surpasses $500 million just simply from the employment and the multiplier effect that you have on other economic activities as well as FDI that you bring into the country and hard currency, et cetera, to a country like Egypt that requires it. And I think this, for us, is this broader ESG, which includes the social dimension, which is absolutely critical.
Yeah. If at all, how much pressure then is the, I won't say the advent, because technology has just been improving, but as it improves and as it gets smarter and as we more integrate it into our businesses, how much of an impact is that having on, again, your thinking on the business, broadly speaking, but more specifically in the context of this conversation, human capital?
I think in the context of this conversation, hospitality is always a high-touch, personal kind of experiences. And where we're using a lot of the new technologies, be it AI or whatever, predictive analysis, et cetera, is to figure out for this particular customer, for this particular family that's coming to visit us, what actually is all the stuff that we can take out to make the process much easier for them, all the overhead stuff. How do you do the check-in? How do you do the check-out, et cetera? All these not necessarily super value-adding moments. However, the actual touch when they require assistance on what am I going to do tomorrow morning, or I have to have my baby, taken care of somewhere, whatever. That's where actually we're keeping the same number of colleagues working in our hospitality hotels, et cetera, to actually serve our customers a lot better than we used to before.
And I guess that's where this space is slightly different to what a lot of other industries are facing, that there's only so much that you're going to be able to do in terms of efficiency, Sebastien, before you still have to revert to the person who's either on the other end of your phone or who is on the other side of the counter. From an investor perspective, looking forward, what are the imperatives that you're thinking about when you're looking at how to improve efficiencies, incorporate technology, and manage your human capital more efficiently and effectively?
Well, this is probably the most difficult question.
Yay.
For which we have no answer. No, but I'm very serious. We almost died 12 years ago when TripAdvisors, Trivago, meta searchers. Then 2 years after, we had the online travel agency, Expedia, Booking, Trip.com. And those guys took commission away from us. And they are very good and very efficient. Then we had Airbnb 2 years after. Those guys didn't take money away from me, they took clients away from me. Now we're going to have the fourth wave, which is started 12 months ago, going to be accelerating, that is generative AI. The impact of AI on hospitality will be tremendous. Could be positive, could be negative. Positive, anything before you come to the hotel. When you leave the hotel, that seamless content relationship will be AI-driven, i.e. human capital very light. You're going to be talking to a robot. You're going to be talking to a chatbot. You're going to have a travel assistant, and they will be damn good. During the stay, I am hoping, dreaming, wishing that we keep human interaction as much as possible. At the same time, I was a couple of days ago talking to a guy who told me, Sebastien, we have 10,000 restaurants. He said, I can probably inherit a third of your restaurant and replace 80% of your workforce with robot. Because there's only 4 things we're serving: Caesar salad, pasta, pizza, burger. Those 4 things could be done very well today with robot. So that question is the enormous question, because 10% of the workforce in the world works for travel tourism. 20% of any new job in the world works for travel and tourism. Well, if you reduce that 20% to 10% or 15%, go back to what I said earlier, that 1.2 billion new youth people who wants a job, who's going to give it to them? Google, without a diploma? So we'd better be basically resolving that, that answer in the next 12 months, maybe 24 months, but we don't have 5 years to think.
Yeah. Very, gosh, now you got me worried and we've only got a couple of minutes left. Omar, I'm going to come to you very quickly. Same question, if you can respond. And then finally, Manfredi, then we're going to have to wrap it up, gentlemen.
Okay. Well, I mean, very much like I said earlier, I think this whole human interaction and really having those personal touches in the way we deal with our clients, our customers, is absolutely essential. And we don't foresee, frankly, for the short term at least, that any of this is going to necessarily change. Of course, AI enables us to get to know our guests a lot better well before they come, and also get to know them a lot better once they've left our property and hopefully will want to return again. Especially that in our particular model, we welcome our guests multiple times in our hotels and then eventually hope to transition them to a real estate purchase, right? Because of, for us, it's one integrated community and we ultimately want them to have a second or a third home in these magical destinations where we are.
Manfredi?
Well, what I can say is that we talk about one business, which is travel and tourism, but in reality, it's two different worlds. The mass market and the luxury segment. The mass market, you can provide much more services through automation and what else. Me, if I go to a hotel where at night I have to put my key to get in, I change hotel. Because I want to have service. I pay for it, and I want to have service. Human service is fundamental for the consumer who can afford. So I think that is important. Then if we go more into that, as I told you already for the cruise industry, the fact that the client is recognized and his desires are known is fundamental. And if you go on the other one, which is Abercrombie & Kent, the capability of envisaging the right vacation, the right mix for the guests is fundamental. You have to know me. I don't want what you call bullshit. No thing, go and watch at the sunset. I want to see monuments, animal life, nature, get me on the run. Resting, have your rest. I don't want to rest. I have 10 days vacation, I want to take it. My advisor, here we have, he left, my guy in Egypt. He's one of the best in the world. He knows every client, one by one, what they want, and he's going to give them what they want. And that is fundamental. That is a travel advisor.
Okay, we are out of time, so I'm going to steal 1 minute and ask you rapid fire. I want one word, not two, not three, not five, one word. If something has to change, looking forward, for human capital, what is that going to be? One word.
Sebastien.
No, your word is Sebastien?
Oh, Sebastien.
Okay, so your word is Sebastien.
No, the word is not Sebastien. The word.
One word,
We have
Manfredi.
to, motivation.
Motivation. Okay, great. Omar?
Skills, I think.
Okay. Sebastien?
Heart, much better than diploma.
Okay, so if we have heart and we match that with skills, and we ensure that we have the right incentives and the right motivation, we should have human capital that is not only sustainable, but efficient and good for the future market. Would that be correct?
Happy.
No, one word, Manfredi, you had one.
Motivation.
So,
I think we just
yes,
cracked
I
it.
gave it to you.
But the reason is he's going to be happy.
He's going to be happy, okay.
Goes to work, he's going to be happy.
Gentlemen, we have to leave it there because now they're starting to make faces at me. Thank you so very much, Manfredi, Omar, Sebastien, merci
Thank
beaucoup.
you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your attention. Gentlemen, thank you.
That way?
Yes, this way, please.
Sebastien.